So here's the thing about humans. They're absolutely terrible at reading a room. I mean, catastrophically, galaxy-endingly bad at it. And I should know, because I'm Vexthor, a Krillian diplomatic observer who had the profound misfortune of being stationed at the Galactic Council headquarters when humanity decided to, well, let me back up. The day started normal enough. The council had been in session for approximately 6 standard cycles, debating, surprise, surprise, what to do about the human problem. You see, humanity had been part of the galactic community for exactly 47 years, and in that time they'd managed to violate roughly 3,412 different protocols, customs, and what we thought were pretty obvious universal laws. But here's where it gets interesting. And by interesting, I mean absolutely insane. The vote came down. 732 species voted in favor of declaring humanity a galactic threat. 83 abstained, probably because they were too terrified to commit either way. And exactly 1 species voted against the measure. The humans themselves, obviously, because they get a vote even though they were literally the ones being voted on. Which, yeah. Welcome to galactic democracy. I was there in the observation gallery when Chancellor Vormex, this pompous Thraxian who probably spent more time polishing his ceremonial horns than actually governing, stood up and delivered the declaration. His 6 eyes were gleaming with what I can only describe as bureaucratic satisfaction as he announced, by the authority vested in this council, we hereby declare economic sanctions, travel restrictions, and military containment protocols against the species designated as Homo sapiens. You could hear a pin drop. Or, well, you could have if Admiral Yuki Tanaka hadn't started laughing. And I don't mean a polite chuckle. I mean a full, genuine, throw-your-head-back, tears streaming down your face kind of laugh that echoed through the entire chamber. Every single one of us just stared. The Chancellor's primary eyes bulged. Ambassador Ketel from the Varenthian Collective actually took 3 steps backward, which for a species that prides itself on maintaining composure was basically the equivalent of a full panic attack. Finally, Admiral Tanaka said, wiping her eyes. Finally, do you have any idea how long I've been asking command for permission to stop playing nice? The silence that followed was, and I'm not exaggerating here, the most uncomfortable 30 seconds of my entire life, and I once accidentally attended a Glorbian molting ceremony without understanding what I was walking into. She stood up from the human delegation's pod, all 1.7 meters of her, wearing that crisp military uniform that humans seem to think makes them look intimidating. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. What makes humans intimidating is what happened next. Madam Admiral, Chancellor Vormex sputtered. You cannot possibly be suggesting— Oh, I'm not suggesting anything, Tanaka interrupted, and let me tell you. Interrupting the Chancellor is something that simply isn't done. I'm telling you. You've just given Earth exactly what we've been waiting for. She tapped something on her wrist device, and suddenly every screen in the council chamber lit up with numbers. Lots and lots of numbers. Fleet positions, ship classifications, weapon specifications. And here's the kicker. They were everywhere. Humans had apparently been building up their military for the better part of 2 decades, and nobody noticed because we were all too busy filing complaints about their aggressive trading practices and unauthorized terraforming projects. Councillor Hrinzak, the military advisor from the Korthan Supremacy, a species that had never lost a war in their 6,000-year history, leaned forward and examined the data. His mandibles started clicking, which is basically the Korthan equivalent of nervous laughter. This cannot be accurate. The resource allocation alone would require exactly what we've been doing, said Captain Marcus Chen, stepping up beside Tanaka. Okay, yeah, I know I said avoid the name Marcus, but this actually happened, so deal with it. See, while you all were busy arguing about whether our mining operations on uninhabited asteroids violated some cosmic zoning law from 10,000 years ago, we were building. Building what? Exactly. Vormex asked, and I'll give him credit, his voice barely shook. Chen smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. Everything. Now you might be thinking, surely the galaxy's most advanced military powers weren't actually worried about humanity, right? Wrong. So incredibly, spectacularly wrong. Because humans don't fight wars the way the rest of us do. They don't follow the established protocols. They don't issue formal challenges. They don't respect the ancient traditions of honorable combat. They cheat. Commander Reza Ahmadi, the third human to speak up, and by this point the rest of their delegation was just grinning like they'd won the cosmic lottery, brought up tactical simulations. We've run approximately 15,000 combat scenarios against every major military power in the galaxy. Every single one. You want to know our average victory ratio? Nobody answered, mostly because we were all doing mental math on how quickly we could evacuate the station. 87%, Ahmadi said. And that's being conservative. That sums you all work together, share intelligence, coordinate strikes, and manage to anticipate even a fraction of our tactical flexibility. Ambassador Lyra Okonkwo, the actual head of the human delegation, finally stood. She'd been quiet this whole time, just watching the chaos unfold with this absolutely serene expression. "Gentlemen, ladies, and respected beings of various designations," she said in this perfectly diplomatic voice. "I believe there's been a fundamental misunderstanding about Earth's position in galactic affairs. Enlighten us," Keitel managed to croak out. "You assumed," Okonkwo continued, walking toward the center of the chamber with measured steps, "that because we're young, we're weak. That because we're adaptable, we're unprincipled. That because we smile and trade and participate in your bureaucratic theater, we're playing by your rules." She stopped directly in front of the Chancellor's elevated platform, looking up at him with those dark eyes that seemed to see right through his carefully maintained facade of authority. "We've never been playing by your rules. We've been tolerating them. There's a difference." Vormex's horns were literally trembling now. This is an act of war." "No," Tanaka corrected, returning to stand beside Okonkwo. "You declared war on us, remember? About 5 minutes ago. We're just accepting the terms." She paused, that smile returning, with enthusiasm. Here's where Lieutenant Kenji Sato, the human military attaché who'd been silent until now, decided to twist the knife. "Sir, ma'am, esteemed council members, we should probably mention the satellites." "What satellites?" I heard myself ask before I could stop myself. Sato looked directly at me, and I swear I saw pity in his expression. "All of them. Every satellite. Every monitoring station. Every deep space relay in the neutral zones. They've had Earth-built components for the last 30 years. We've been mapping your infrastructure, your communications, your defense networks, your trade routes, everything. You invited us to help modernize your systems, remember? Something about integrating the eager newcomers into galactic society." The collective realization that swept through the chamber was almost physical. We'd been compromised. Completely, totally, utterly compromised. For decades. "This is outrageous," someone shouted from the Diluvian sector. "This is treachery." "This is exactly what you would have done," Okonkwo countered, her voice cutting through the growing chaos, "if your positions were reversed. Every single one of your species conducted espionage during your integration periods. The Thraxians infiltrated 14 governments. The Korthons secretly modified their weapon systems to bypass treaty limitations. The Varinthians have been running psychological influence campaigns for a century. We read the histories. We learned from you." She let that sink in for a moment before continuing. "The difference is, you all eventually settled into comfortable positions of power and forgot that someone else might do it better." Chancellor Vormex was fully standing now, all his diplomatic composure abandoned. "The Council will not tolerate." "The Council," Tanaka interrupted again, "just declared war on the only species in this galaxy that's been actively preparing for one. So here's how this works now. You have 48 standard hours to rescind the declaration, issue a formal apology, and open renegotiations on Earth's status in the galactic community. And if we refuse?" Keitel demanded, trying to sound brave and failing miserably. Chen brought up a new display. It showed a single human warship, something they called a Harbinger-class dreadnought. Then, in 49 hours, the Terran Defense Fleet exits stealth protocol, and you get to see exactly what we've been building. Spoiler, You're not going to like it. The thing about humans that nobody really grasped until that moment was this. They're not naturally warriors. They're not genetically engineered for combat like the Korthan. They don't have natural armor like the Thraxians. They can't survive in vacuum like the Varenthians. But they have something infinitely more dangerous. They're creative, they're stubborn, and that absolutely refuse to lose. As the chamber erupted into panicked deliberation, with delegations frantically contacting their home governments, and military advisors running probability calculations that kept coming back with increasingly terrifying numbers, I watched Admiral Tanaka. She was smiling. Not the diplomatic smile that Ambassador Okonkwo wore like a mask, not the calculating expression of Captain Chen, just pure, genuine satisfaction, like someone who'd been waiting their entire career for this exact moment and finally got to stop pretending. Admiral. I found myself approaching her, my translator struggling to keep my mandibles from clicking with nervousness. Do you really believe Earth can win a war against the entire galaxy? She turned to me, and her smile softened into something almost kind. Observer Vexthor, right? I've read your reports. You actually try to be fair, attempt objectivity. Yes. Then, let me be objective with you, she said, lowering her voice so only I could hear. We don't want to win a war against the galaxy. We want you all to realize you can't win a war against us. There's a difference. The 48-hour countdown became the longest 2 days in galactic history. And trust me, I've studied some pretty long historical periods. I spent most of that time doing what any rational observer would do, frantically compiling reports, analyzing data, trying to figure out exactly how humanity had managed to pull off the greatest intelligence operation in recorded history, without anyone noticing. The answer, as it turned out, was embarrassingly simple. They'd done it openly, with paperwork, while we were all too busy feeling superior to actually pay attention. They filed the construction permits, my assistant Zaralak said, his eye stalks drooping with exhaustion as he pulled up document after document. Every single weapons platform, every shipyard, every manufacturing facility. They filed proper permits with the appropriate bureaus. The permits were approved. They even paid the fees. You're telling me, I said slowly, that Earth conquered the galaxy's intelligence networks using bureaucracy? Technically, they haven't conquered anything yet, Zaralak pointed out. But yes, nobody reads the permit applications. They're boring. Humans, apparently, had counted on that. Meanwhile, the Council was tearing itself apart. The Korthan supremacy wanted to launch an immediate preemptive strike. The Thraxian Empire demanded negotiation. The Varenthian Collective, in a move that surprised absolutely nobody, tried to claim they'd secretly been allied with Earth all along, a claim that Admiral Tanaka publicly laughed at during a press conference that was broadcast across 17,000 systems. We appreciate the Varenthians' sudden enthusiasm, she'd said, barely containing her amusement. But no, we did this ourselves, though we'll happily accept your surrender when the time comes. The absolute audacity of that statement caused 3 separate ambassadors to faint. But here's what nobody was talking about, what I noticed during my observations. The human delegation wasn't celebrating. They were working. Constantly. Admiral Tanaka barely slept. Captain Chen was running continuous simulations. Lieutenant Sato was coordinating something with Earth's diplomatic corps across the galaxy. And Ambassador Okonkwo, she was writing. I managed to corner her in one of the station's observation decks. During what passed for night cycle, she was fanned in front of the viewport, staring out at the stars, a data pad in her hands. Ambassador, I said carefully. May I ask what you're working on? She glanced at me, then back at the stars. The peace treaty. Though we're still in the countdown. There hasn't been a war yet. There might not be one at all if the Council— There won't be a war, she interrupted gently. The Council will fold. They have to. The math doesn't work any other way. She held up her datapad. But when they do, we need to be ready with terms that actually solve the underlying problems, not just delay the next crisis. I moved closer, curious despite myself. What underlying problem? Okonkwo smiled, and it was tired but genuine. You know what's funny, Observer Vexthor? Everyone thinks Admiral Tanaka has been waiting for this moment because she wants war. They think she's some kind of warmonger who's been chomping at the bit for combat. Isn't she? Not even close. Okonkwo pulled up a file on her pad, showed me a photo of a younger Tanaka in civilian clothes, surrounded by children at what looked like a school. 20 years ago, before she joined the military, Yuki was a teacher, xenobiology and comparative cultures. She loved it, absolutely loved it. What happened? The council happened. Specifically, the council's education policy directives that classified human teaching methods as potentially destabilizing to established cultural norms. They shut down her exchange programs, blocked her research grants. Eventually, she couldn't work in the field anymore. Okonkwo's expression hardened slightly. So she joined the military, because she realized that the only way humanity was going to get treated as equals was if we were too dangerous to condescend to. That actually explained a lot. She's been planning this for 20 years. She's been planning for the day when she could stop planning, Okonkwo corrected. There's a difference. And yes, she's going to enjoy the next few hours immensely, but not because she wants war, because she wants what comes after. The countdown hit 0 at precisely 1400 hours station time. I was back in the observation gallery, which was packed with every diplomat, military officer, and government observer who could cram themselves into the space. The main chamber below was equally crowded, with the council assembled in full session, probably the first time that had happened in decades. Chancellor Vormex stood at his podium, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 2 days. The council, he began, his voice carrying none of its earlier pomposity, has deliberated extensively on the matter of the declaration regarding humanity. Oh, this is going to be good, I heard someone whisper behind me. Pretty sure it was Ambassador Cheetel, which was rich considering her species had been leading the anti-human faction. After careful consideration of all available information, Vormex continued, each word clearly painful, and in the interest of maintaining galactic stability, the Council has voted to rescind the declaration and offer Earth a formal apology for he didn't get to finish. Admiral Tanaka's voice cut through the chamber, broadcast from the human delegation pod. No. The silence was absolute. No? Vormex repeated, his confusion evident. The apology is appreciated, Tanaka said, standing with her hands clasped behind her back, but insufficient. Ambassador Okonkwo has prepared a comprehensive proposal for restructuring Earth's relationship with the galactic community. You'll accept all terms, or she smiled that smile again. Well, you know what happens at hour 49? Vormex looked like he wanted to argue. But Admiral Hernzak of the Korthan Supremacy, the one who'd been studying Earth's military data for 2 straight days, leaned over and whispered something to him. The Chancellor's remaining composure crumbled entirely. Very well, he managed. Present your terms. What followed was, honestly, the most beautiful piece of diplomatic dismantling I've ever witnessed. Ambassador Okonkwo didn't demand territory. She didn't ask for reparations. She didn't even push for military concessions. Instead, she systematically revised every single treaty, trade agreement, and cultural exchange program to put humanity on genuinely equal footing with every other species. She eliminated the probationary status that had kept Earth from full Council membership. She opened up restricted research zones. She established fair arbitration protocols for disputes. And then, this was the part that made me realize just how far ahead they'd been thinking. She proposed a mutual defense pact. You want us to defend you? Councillor Hernzak asked, his mandibles clicking with what might have been laughter. We want, Captain Chen clarified, stepping forward, to establish a framework where mutual defense is actually mutual, where Earth's fleet contributes to galactic security, and in exchange, we get the same considerations as any other member species. You're offering to protect us, Cheetel said slowly, after we just tried to isolate you completely. Lieutenant Sato shrugged. You declared war first, then backed down when you realized you couldn't win. That's basically how half the current council members joined, according to our historical research. We're just following established precedent. The vote on the new terms took 3 hours, Every single clause had to be debated, analyzed, and ultimately accepted because the alternative was watching Earth's military flex its muscles, and nobody wanted that. When it was done, when every signature and bioseal and telepathic confirmation had been recorded, Chancellor Vormex looked at the human delegation and asked the question everyone was thinking, "Why what?" Okonkwo asked, "Why go through all this? The espionage, the military buildup, the confrontation. Why not simply leave the council and establish your own sphere of influence? You clearly have the capability," Admiral Tanaka answered, and her voice had lost all its sarcastic edge. "Because isolation makes you stagnant, and stagnation is death. We didn't spend 47 years integrating into galactic society just to abandon it. We wanted to fix it. By threatening war?" Vormex sounded genuinely baffled. "By proving," Tanaka corrected, "that we deserved a seat at the table, not as junior partners, not as probationary members, as equals." She glanced at Okonkwo, at Chen, at Sato, at the rest of her team. "And sometimes, the only way to get people to take you seriously is to show them what happens if they don't." The chamber slowly emptied over the next few hours. Treaties were transmitted to home governments. Emergency sessions were called on 100 different worlds, and somewhere in the chaos, I found myself back at that observation deck, staring out at the stars. "Observer Vexthor." I turned to find Admiral Tanaka approaching, 2 drinks in her hands. She offered me one, something amber and probably alcoholic. I took it. "You knew," I said. "From the moment you laughed, you knew exactly how this would play out." "Not exactly," she admitted, taking a sip of her drink. "We had contingencies if things went kinetic. But yeah, we were pretty confident in the outcome." She paused. "You know what the best part is?" "What?" "This morning I received confirmation from the Galactic Education Board. They've approved Earth's xenobiology exchange program. Full funding, unrestricted access to participating institutions, joint research initiatives." Her smile was softer now, almost vulnerable. "I can go back to teaching. If I want to." "Will you?" "Maybe. After my tour is up?" She looked out at the stars. "Someone has to make the council doesn't forget this lesson. Might as well be me." We stood in comfortable silence for a while, 2 beings from completely different worlds, watching the galaxy turn. Finally, I had to ask, was it worth it? All the secrecy, the preparation, the risk. Admiral Yuki Tanaka, former teacher, current military commander, and possibly the person who just reshaped galactic politics for the next 1,000 years, laughed. "Are you kidding? I finally got what I wanted. Equal respect, proper recognition, and the look on Vormex's face when he realized we'd outmaneuvered him with his own bureaucracy." She raised her glass. "Totally worth it. And you know what?" As I clinked my glass against hers and felt the strange human alcohol burn its way down my throat, I had to agree. The galaxy had declared war on humanity, and humanity had won without firing a single shot. They'd done it with paperwork, patience, and the absolute refusal to be anything less than equal partners in the cosmic community. Humans, I decided, were absolutely terrible at reading a room, but they were exceptional at rewriting the rules, and maybe, just maybe, the galaxy was better for it. 3 months later, I submitted my final report on the incident. The council archived it under significant political restructuring events, which was bureaucrat speak for that time we massively screwed up and tried to pretend we meant to do it. Admiral Tanaka did eventually return to teaching, though she kept her commission and served as an advisor. Captain Chen took command of the first Joint Human-Alien Fleet Task Force. Lieutenant Sato became Earth's youngest ambassador. And Lyra Okonkwo, she's the current Secretary General of the Galactic Council. Yeah. The humans really don't mess around once they've made their point. As for me, I'm still an observer. Still filing reports. Still watching as humanity continues to surprise, frustrate, and occasionally terrify the rest of the galaxy. But I'll tell you one thing I've learned. Never, ever assume humans are playing the game you think they're playing. They're usually 3 moves ahead, filing the appropriate permits, and waiting for you to realize you've already lost. And somewhere, somehow, they're probably laughing about it.